Jim, did you say Mike Conley is on?
Yes,
Okay.
he's
We
muted.
just haven't heard much yet.
Tom, can you hear us, Tom? I'm not sure if Tom McElroy is having trouble. I can see him, but I can't. Well, is Mike Conley on?
Yes,
Yes, I don't see him here in my screen.
I see him, but he's muted.
Oh, he's muted. Okay.
I've asked that he unmute. Guest with a telephone number ending in 0961. If you give me your name, I will change it for you. Guest with the telephone number ending in 0961. If you wish to give me your name, I can change it for you. Oh. Mr. Chair, Mr. Connolly is muted on his machine.
Can we get started at least? Do we need him? I mean, if he's muted, he can hear us. Let's
Are
get
you on,
started.
Alan?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, yeah, Alan French says he's on, but is he muted?
He must be.
Yeah.
If he's on,
he's just using a phone.
he got to do star.
How can you be on if you're talking to me?
He can be texting you.
Okay, well, all right. I don't know what's going on, but he's. We'll keep on watching for you.
Yes, I will.
Is Tom McElroy able to communicate?
He's looking very frustrated.
Yes, I see that. Yeah.
It's Mike. I'm on.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chair, it's 7:40.
Jim, can you see Alan French? He's calling in. He's not on his computer.
Unless he's at telephone number 0961.
I'm not sure who that is.
That's
I-
Mike Connolly.
Oh,
That's
okay.
okay. That's Mike Conley. Okay.
Then no, Mr. French is not.
No, and Tom McElroy keep on saying it's trying to connect. At least the little message I'm seeing as just
Yes.
below him and his wife's faces. Sorry, Diane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the softball game's over, so
It looks like Tom should be all set. Tom, can you hear us? Wave if you can hear us.
Can Tom McElroy hear us? I'm not sure what's going on. Jim, can you tell if Tom McElroy is muted?
One second. It's not showing him as having a microphone.
Okay. So we have Mr. Gibbs, we have Mr. Conley, Mr. Hamill, and myself.
Yes. You do have a quorum.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Well, it's we've already wasted about 10 minutes. We have a lot to do tonight. The Newton Board of Adjustments public hearing is called to order at 7:42 p.m. on May 10th. Due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, most recently extended, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency code, I am confirming that. The Zoning Board of Adjustments is utilizing Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to the contemporary listen, if necessary, participate in this meeting, or by going to Zoom website. The Zoning Board of Adjustments previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting through phones and telephonically. Instructions have been provided to the town on the town website. If anyone has a problem, they should email the Zoning Board of Adjustment office at the Planning Board in Newton, New Hampshire, nh.net. In the event the general public is unable to access the meeting will be rescheduled and adjourned. Please note that all the votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Also, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 22, pursuant to executive order number 2020-404, and extensions of zoning board of adjustments relieved from the statutory and local requirements to meet on a particular schedule or a certain number of times within a given time frame. The zoning board of adjustments is also relieved from complying with the statutory or local deadlines for acceptance, hearing, and acting in zoning Board of Adjustments applications. Would the administrative assistant please do a roll call vote, the roll call of attendance, and please state where you are and if you are alone.
Mr. Kozak,
Here, and I'm home alone.
Mr. French is not here yet.
No.
Mr. Hamel,
Present and alone.
Mr. Conley,
Present, alone in a room in my house. Family is attending, is upstairs.
Mr. Gibbs,
Present and alone.
Mr. McElroy is present and not alone. Ms. McCarthy is
I
not
don't think
present.
she's on.
Mr. Chair, you have a full quorum.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Diane Moran to discuss with us the new email addresses and how we go about connecting to it and how we do the conversion so everybody is on that. I haven't even thought of a time period, but maybe we can discuss it maybe either later on this evening after Ms. Moran leaves. Diane, I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. So basically, what we're looking to do is to give each member, and that includes your alternate members, an email address that ends in newtonnh.net. This is your email that you will use for any of your zoning board of adjustments emails. Usually, what I like to do is I usually use your first initial and your last name. Once that's set up, you can access this email as long as you have internet access. There are various applications you can use, such as Outlook, just even a web browser, your default email with your phone. In my case, it's an iPhone. If you have an Android, there's a default, I believe, it might be Google, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's basically it. I just need to know if that's the way that this board would like to proceed. And once I know that, then I can put in with our IT provider your email address, and then we'll send you some credentials. Do I have any questions?
Diane, this is the first that we brought it up to the members. I'm not sure what everybody thinks about it. Gentlemen, I'd like to discuss it later on when we have more time this evening. Is that okay with everybody? And we can make a decision and get back to Ms. Moran?
That's fine.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I do have one question for Diane. Is that just going to reactivate my email that I had when I was on the planning board?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I guess, Diane, the answer is right now, we will discuss it later on, the pluses and minuses. And Diane, what kind of a platform, how do we get into the town's website? Do we have a URL? How does that work?
I'm not sure I follow what you mean by the town website.
Yeah, how do we physically use the software?
It's not, as long as you have an internet connection, there are a bunch of different email applications you can use. You can use Outlook. You can use, in our case, you can use Office 365 to log in.
Okay.
Because you'll have an account. And like I said, if you have an iPhone, you can add it to your iPhone email. If you have an Android, you can do the same as that.
Okay.
So even if you have an iPad, whenever you read email, you should be able to add an email account, which is what you would do.
Okay. Is there any other questions for Diane while she's here, gentlemen? I guess we're all set, Diane. We're going to move on. Thank you very much for coming.
All right. I'm going to hang up. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up is a public hearing for Mr. Michael J. Bell of Newton, New Hampshire, seeking relief from section XV semicolon 3, location on the lot, specifically side yard setbacks at 44A Bear Hill Road, Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referred to as tax map 17, block 4, lot 51. The information was supplied in your last package. Excuse me. Gentlemen, questions for Mr. Bell? Has everybody looked at the plot plan?
Yeah.
Any questions there, gentlemen, before we go any further?
Has there been any input from the abutters?
Yes, there was, Roger. Did you get a copy of the letter?
I don't think so.
Let me find it
Can you
here.
read those? I haven't seen any letters. Can you read it?
This is
I
from
don't know how to
Stuart.
unmute.
Let me read the letter. I thought everybody had a copy of it. I
Read
apologize.
those
if you
words
didn't get it.
again.
This gentleman lives at 46 Bear Hill Road. That's the house heading on the south side of Mr. Bell's house. To whom it may concern, Newton Board of Appeals, or anyway. This letter will express my support for the building of a garage at 44A Bear Hill Road by Michael Bell. It's proposed to
One
the
is
board
unmuted. I know.
on
Unmute it.
4/12,
I did.
4/12/2021. I am unopposed to the variance request and have reviewed the plot plan and building plans with the homeowner and would like to express that I have no concerns with proposed buildings. I am unable to attend the public hearing on May 10th, so this letter suggests my support for the proposed building. If the board has any questions about my view on this matter, I can be contacted, and he left his telephone number. Thank you, Stuart Marcus. Does that answer your question, Roger?
Yes, it does. While you were reading that, Tom managed to unmute himself and now he's muted again.
Okay.
If he can hear us, whatever you did, do it again and you'll be unmuted.
If I
Jim,
may,
can you
Mr.
unmute
Chair.
him?
Tom, if you can hear us, if you press the space bar on your computer, it will unmute you for the time that you're holding the space bar down.
Doesn't appear that he can. Not responding to anything we're saying to him.
I'm the abutter on the other side of Mike Bell on 44 Bear Hill Road.
Well, could you hold off, please? I'm not sure who's talking, but we're going to get to that in a moment, ma'am. We're trying to get Mr. Malreza off mute. Well, I can see Tom's having difficulty getting off mute.
There he goes.
Okay, Tom's on there. Okay, fine. Now, how about members? Do we have any questions for Mr. Bell on the property?
I know there was another abutter to this, so I'd like to hear that before I ask any questions.
Okay.
It's Mike Conley, sorry.
Are there any
Hi,
other questions? We'll go to abutters, and we can always come back to the members. Are there any abutters that would like to speak?
I'm an abutter on 44 Bear Hill Road. It's Nicole.
And which, want to repeat your name, ma'am?
Nicole Doucette.
And what is your address, ma'am?
44 Bear Hill Road.
44 Bear Hill, yeah. The floor is yours, ma'am.
We are in complete support of Mike's project. We have no issues with it whatsoever.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Welcome.
Mike, you said you might have some questions after one of the abutters spoke. I think we've heard from, to the right and the left of the abutters. I assume that.
No, I just wanted to make sure I heard opinions from the general public before
Okay.
I
All right.
go any further. I'd rather have that out in the open.
Okay. Are there any other questions by the members?
Many of my concerns were handled at the last meeting last month when we had I was concerned about why he wouldn't be able to move the accessory building further away from property line. But I think that he addressed those issues at the preliminary meeting. The only thing, again, I want to stress that because of the size of this building, he will need to go to the planning board because it is more than, including all of the overhangs and the carport on the side, it is greater than the 1,200 square feet that is allowed by the zoning ordinance. You will need to get site plan approval from the planning board to grant the variance.
Do you understand that, Mr. Bell? If I think we've talked about it at the preliminary, if this passes tonight, you still have to go to the planning board.
Yeah, and I think I had talked to Jim in the past with the planning board, and he made it sound like that wasn't necessary, but.
I think maybe what you told him, if you told him you were building a 48 by 24 structure, that would be the case. But in reality, what it is a 50 by 36, and that's why it's over. I mean, because in your application you referred to it as a 24 by 48. That isn't the way that the zoning ordinance measures that structure. I think that might be why there was confusion in the first one. If all you told him was you were building a 24 by 48, he would said, yeah, you don't have to go to the planning board. Building a 50 by 36 or 38, then you have to go to the planning board.
And even though that overhang is not actually the square footage of the building, it's still.
It is the square footage of the building. That is included every part of the building, including overhang, gutters, you name it.
Okay.
In the gentlemen, you look at the plans, the variance requests are on there. Is everybody happy with those?
I think I brought it up at the last meeting. I would like to see the building parallel with a lot line and keep the 14.8 off the lot line and not the 12.2. 12.2, I think, is very close to the lot line.
I think what the applicant explained that basically what he is attempting to do is to keep the new structure parallel to the existing house, so that when he backs up his RV or his trailer or whatever it was that he was going to back up, he would have a straight shot. And if you swing the back corner away from the lot line, it's going to be a lot harder to back anything into that space.
I think you're wrong on that. You're going to make it easier to back in.
The idea too, I think we talked about that last meeting, was to line it up with the building. I thought it would kind of be more aesthetically pleasing. And where the neighbor is not opposed to it, I don't understand why there would be a concern with it being lined up with the lot line.
Well, the 15, almost 15 feet around the edge of the building would give you a fire lane. You swing it down to 12 feet, you're barely gonna get anything through there. So for fire safety, I would keep it at the 15 feet. That's my opinion.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. What fire safety?
Just having clearance on the side of the building to the lot line.
It's all, actually on that lot line is, some small trees and stuff. There's not really much there.
Just my opinion. I'd like to see it parallel with a lot line, not,
Is there so he's looking for the largest variance is what, a 12 feet, 10 inches. Is that correct, gentlemen?
that sounds correct.
Yeah, okay. Any other discussion before I start going through the variance standards?
No, I do have a question though for the board. This is Mike Conley.
Go ahead,
So
Mike.
do we need the plot plan corrected to show correct dimensions? Because it's not including the overhang in the dimensions.
Yeah.
Or am I looking at this wrong? I just want to make sure
I think that, you see what it says 12 feet, 10 inches, Mike, including the overhang, the setback. That's the requirement. That's what he's looking for, 12 feet, 10 inches.
Oh, I'm caught up in the dimensions inside the,
Okay.
okay,
All right.
okay, thank you, thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. Okay. Any other questions? And should I continue? The variance standards. Number one, the variance is not contrary to the public interest such that it would alter the essential character of a neighborhood or threaten the public health or safety or welfare. And Mr. Bell's response, an approximately 12-foot side yard variance is requested to allow an accessory building 24 by 48, 1,152 square feet within a residential district for car and camper storage. Proposed size is within the allowable ordinance standard for the best backyard location is the most practical and least intrusive location for the proposed structure. The design and the materials used will provide accessory building not negatively alter the essential character of the neighborhood. The public health, safety, and welfare of the area will be preserved by building a detached garage that conforms to the allowable use and size within the neighborhood district and found within the district.
I believe he meets the criteria,
Okay.
Mr. Hamel.
Could the administrative secretary please call a roll call vote, please? It would be nice to say either yes, you agree, you don't, and then with a comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
are we going to actually vote on each? Typically we have not voted, we have made comments on all 5 criteria and then made a vote on whether to grant or not grant.
well, here's the problem, Roger. Excuse me, Mr. Hamel. If one of them fail, it all fails. All 5 have to pass. So in our history and what we've always done is we vote on each one individually with comments. And if the summary is 4 for and 1 against or whatever, it has to be unanimous. Is that what you're asking, Roger?
Well, it doesn't. You need 3 affirmative votes to grant the variance, but it would be possible to get 3 to pass every criteria, but if they're not the same 3, then the variance itself could still fail. So I think we should comment on each criteria, but then actually have a recorded vote just on whether or not we grant the variance. That's what we have done in the.
So you're saying that just go through all 5, read them, and then ask each member how they're going to vote.
Ask for comments on each of the 5 as we go through each one. You get comments from the members, but actually not a vote until gone through all 5.
Well, that kind of changes the way we've been doing things, Roger, for quite a while. We've been voting on each one. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But pardon me?
I don't think we've had, at least not in the.
You want to go through Coleman's last one and see how many yeses and nos we had? We went through each one and voted and made comments. I'd like to stick to that. If we want to change that in the future, Roger, we can hold on another discussion. But for this evening, what we're going to do, we're going to read each one. Each member is going to say, yes, I agree, I don't agree. And then write a comment if they agree or disagree, if you'd like. So with the executive secretary, please start off and do a roll call vote on number 1, please.
We're
Mr. Chair,
voting on the
We're going to vote on
12.
we're going to vote on number 1. The variance is not contrary to the public interest above, which I just read Mr. Bell's comments.
If I may, Mr. Chair, rather than calling this a vote, which would need a motion and a second, you may call this consensus.
I'm sorry, what, Jim?
You may use the word to reach a consensus, in which case I'll call each person. They will say if they believe that he has met the criteria or not, and give a comment if they wish, but it is not a formal vote or a motion.
Okay. That is correct. Yeah.
Mr. Gibbs.
I agree.
Would you like me to write anything further?
No.
Mr. Hamel, I have your believing that the criteria is met. Mr.
Correct.
Conley?
I agree. No comment at this time.
Mr. Kozak?
Yes, I agree. And I would like to make a comment. I think that the way it's presented by Mr. Bell, I don't see any effect in the neighborhood. The abutters are happy on either side. I have no problem with it. I'm going to agree. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed detached garage is customary and incidentally to the residential home found within the residential district. The spirit of the ordinance will be maintained since the accessory structure will not conflict with the explicit purpose of the ordinance. Public rights within the neighborhood will not be injured, and the proposed garage will afford the property owner the ability to enjoy a use customary to other residential properties within the area. Should we call a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gibbs?
I agree.
Mr. Hamel?
No comment.
They meet the criteria.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Roger?
I said yes. This meets the criteria.
Okay.
Mr. Conley?
I say yes. I think it falls in line with the spirit of the ordinance. I see no issues here.
Mr. Kozak?
Yes, I agree. No comment at this time. Okay, move on to number 3. So statute justice is done. The ability to have a detached garage to store a car or camper is customary incidental use within the residential district. The adjournment property owners expressed their support for the structure in proposed garage will not create harm of the general public or other individuals within the area. The side setbacks variance is requested is the least amount necessary to provide substantial justice to the property owner within, without harming the rights of the others in the area.
Mr. Gibbs,
I agree.
Mr. Hamel,
This meets the criteria.
Mr. Conley,
I vote yes. I believe this meets the criteria.
Mr. Kozak,
Yes, I mean, in the comments from the one abutter there, I don't remember her name, and also the written comments from the butter on the south side, I agree, yes. Continue on to number 4. The values of surrounding properties are not diminished. The proposed accessory structure will not be within, will be within the allowed size and height as permitted by the zoning ordinance proposal setback. I'm sorry, I think that's, hang on please for 1 second. Alan, have you been able to get on? I don't know what to tell you, Alan, we're in the middle, just keep on trying, okay? Thank you. Sorry about that, people. Again, the value of surrounding properties are not diminished. Again, I apologize.
Is this calling the right number?
He's, Alan keeps on calling me back. Let me get rid of that. Sorry about that. Go ahead. The value of surrounding properties are not diminished. The proposed accessory structure will be within the allowed size and height as permitted by the zoning ordinance in the proposed setback is far enough away from the property line as to not to diminish the values of surrounding properties. Alternatively, the proposed structure will increase the property value and cause an impact on the surrounding area. Administrative Secretary, please call a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gibbs,
I disagree on this one because on a 2.2 acre lot, you shouldn't be building a building within 12 feet of the lot line.
Mr. Hamel,
I believe that this meets the criteria.
Mr. Conley,
Yeah, I believe it meets the criteria. My comment is that that's based on all the existing structures that are there, so I'm voting yes.
Mr. Kozak,
Yes, I also agree.
Oh, it's still on. You still have it on.
Yes, I agree. I'm sorry about that. And I know one member had a concern, but I think with the abutters have no issue. I showed have this. I vote yes. Okay. Right. Number 5, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in necessary hardship. The proposed location of the garage is in the southeast corner of the property and is the only parcel located for the structure given. Unique features of the property included the downward scope from the north property line to the south property line, wetlands located in the rear of the property, and location of existing septic field in the front yard and water well in the rear yard. This site features burden the allowed use of the side yard zoning restriction in a manner that is district for only similarly situated property in the area. Strict enforcement of the 25-foot side setback would not serve as a fair substantial purpose given the unique condition of the property. Administrative Secretary, call a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gibbs,
I agree.
Mr. Hamel,
Yes, this meets the criteria.
Mr. Conley,
Yes, it meets the criteria. No comment.
Mr. Kozak.
Yes, I agree. Okay. So all 5 criteria are passed. And we're at this point where someone might make a motion and the motion is for a 10-foot, I think a 12-foot, 10-inch variance. And also that whoever makes the motion should add on it that the conditions are that that Mr. Bell seek the advice of the planning board. And I wait for a motion.
Is it the advice or the approval from the planning board?
Yes. Advice, I'm not sure exactly, Roger could probably,
Approval.
Mr. Hamel could clue us in a little bit more on what will happen with the planning board in this kind of situation. I'm not sure.
It requires approval of the planning board.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. Kozak, you gave some dimensions. Was it
Yeah,
10 feet? I wrote
yeah,
down 10
the-
feet, 12 inches. That's 11
12
feet.
feet, 10 inches is what he's looking for
Oh.
a variance.
Mr. Chairman, the front corner is for a variance of 10 feet, 4 inches. Back for a variance of 12 feet, 10 inches.
Now, there are two, I'm sorry, Roger. Okay. But the 12.2 is the one that's one that's the most,
12,
or
10.
10.12.
12 feet, 10, okay. I'll make a motion to grant the variance lot 17451 for a variance from the side yard requirements of 10 feet, 4 inches from the front of the structure and for 12 feet, 10 inches on the rear of the structure. Also that the applicant is required to get planning board approval for a building which is greater than 1,200.
Can I just make a friendly recommendation that we put on there the drawing, the prepared, who was prepared by, and there's a job number on the plan.
Yes, so it was prepared by SEC and Associates,
Yeah.
job number 20-2834.
And do we have the location of the property on there also?
Yeah, I mentioned the lot that's 1751.
Okay. Okay, you've got all that down there. Okay. Have I heard a second?
Second, Mike Conley.
Any further discussion? All those in favor by a roll call vote?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to call the roll?
Yes, please.
Mr. Gibbs,
Abstain.
Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, with one abstention, you have a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, just so you're aware of it, it has been approved. There's a 30-day period that a neighbor or anybody else could come to the Board of Appeals, Board of Adjustment, excuse me, and ask for a rehearing based on whatever, just so it's a fair warning. But they have 30 days, just like you would if we if we rejected the variance request.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Going forward with the planning board, how many meetings will I need to meet with them to get approval on their end?
I couldn't tell you that. Maybe Mr. Hamel could answer that. I couldn't.
Actually, I think our administrative assistant may be able to give him a bit more guidance.
Depending upon how quickly you got the application in, I mean, ideally it would be one meeting, but I can't guarantee the opinion of the board. They might look at it and go, it's totally complete, and come to a decision, which they've been doing a lot lately, but I could never, as Mr. Hamel can attest, be able to say that I can read the minds of the board members.
Okay. Well, I'm sure I'll be in touch with you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Could someone make a motion to end the hearing, please?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. And now we have Mr. Charles and Wendy Doherty, 20 Waters Grove, requesting a rehearing of their denial for a variance as dated, as decided on April 12, 2021. The property is referenced in tax map 2, block 4, lot 3. The information supplied in the recent board packet. Just so you gentlemen know, we don't have to make a decision tonight to do a rehearing. We have 30 days to contact Mr. and Mrs. Charles Doherty. And so I think the next thing to do is to ask Mr. Doherty to speak.
So we're seeking a rehearing on, I think we submitted pictures and photos and whatnot to the board in the interim since the last hearing, and 7 feet off of the side of that deck will pretty much render the deck useless. So we're willing to compromise, staying 3 feet off the property line and shaving, you know, a fairly good portion off the side of the deck, which you know, it's a compromise on our part.
Utilize the bar that has been there beforehand.
Yeah, the building's been existing since, I'm not sure how long, but 30 years anyways. So we'd like to utilize that. And I think some of you guys on the board have been down here a couple of months back for a walkthrough, and does not appear that it's in anybody's way. So I'd like you to consider the photos that we submitted. And we'll go from there.
In the photos on picture B, you have a rope across the deck with a tape measure.
Yeah.
Is that 3 feet off the lot line the whole way down?
That was 3 feet off the lot line the whole way down.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, can I just ask a question of all of you before we finish up with Mr. Bell? I mean, Mr. Doherty, I'm sorry. Do we want to discuss that and either say yes with a rehearing or no at this particular time? That's all we have to say, and no other discussion on this? What is the general thought?
If we rehear this, do we have to notify all the abutters again?
Yes, if we agree to have a rehearing, it's just like starting over with. The Dohertys will be required to, cough up a few dollars to notify all the abutters, and our administrative secretary will can kind of, if he's interested in those numbers at this particular time. And it'll be a rehearing. Again, we can decide tonight, or we can wait till the next meeting. I prefer to get it over with tonight, either say yes or no. That way he knows what to expect for June.
I'd like to make a motion to have a rehearing.
Okay.
So my question, Mr. Chairman, it's Mike Conley. So my question before I weigh in, if we decide not to make a decision tonight, can we go off record and have that discussion, or is everything on record?
Yeah, well, you have 30 days, Mr. Conley, and so what will happen is, let's say it's our next meeting within 30 days.
No.
If it's not, we'd have to have a meeting before that and, post it and so forth. And we'd either say again, yes or no at that time. So that would move the hearing out till July.
Okay, so we can't go into non-public and have a discussion.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
It has to be at an open meeting,
Got it.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor to approve the rehearing for the Dohertys at 20 Wilders Grove. Did I hear a second? Well, I'll second the motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if the board decides to rehear this, the one request that we have of Mr. Doherty when he comes to the rehearing is that he provide us with a copy of approval that he got from the state, along with the plan of September 25th, 2020, on which that approval was based.
Okay. That we can add that to the motion, Roger, as a friendly change.
Yep.
Mr. Gibbs, you have a problem with adding that to the motion?
No, I don't.
Okay. And if the motion goes through as another friendly change, what I would like to do, because I would really like to do another walkthrough, but that walkthrough would just be us gentlemen, and I discussed this with our administrative secretary, because it could be a meeting, but there won't be a vote on it or anything else. But at least we can go down there and reevaluate our decision without any interference from Mr. and Mrs. Doherty there. I mean, they'll be there when they allow us to go in their backyard, but no influx there and to pressure any one of us, just our 5 or 6 or 7 members to go down. I would like that added to the motion also. If there's no
Mr. Chair, if I can correct something. It is a public, if I can correct something, if you have a site walk, it is a public meeting and the public must be allowed to attend.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do, okay. Ooh. Well, I guess that, I guess that is what it is, Jim. But I don't want any, I'm hoping not to have any influence from anybody else other than us gentlemen taking a hard look at it. But
Well,
maybe that's
Jack,
not
we can
possible.
take the walk. Jack, we can take, sorry, Mr. Chairman, we can take the walk. We can take a walk through and each of us just make sure that we're not talking to each other or the public. We
Right,
can just make an observation on our own.
yes, yeah. So would somebody like to reread the motion and see if those attachments are on there? Administrative Secretary, do you have a rough idea of what we talked about?
Mr. Hamill's going to have to fill me in because when he started talking, I didn't really, he waited till the end to say, I'd like to add that to the motion. So I hadn't written it all down completely, but the motion is to have the rehearing on June 14th, 2021, with Mr. Donnelly adding, there was something from the state and there was a plan that was approved in December of 2020.
No, it was It was
Shoreline protection?
the shoreline protection
Sure,
Uh,
thank you.
approval that he received from the state, which reference a plan dated September 25th, 2020.
Okay,
Didn't we already have a copy of that, Roger?
I have never seen it.
I've
Wow.
never seen that either, so I just want to make that clear. I've heard it's there. I've never seen it. This is Mike Conley.
Let me take a look here. I thought that they put one in. Hang on. See what I have here. I got a lot of documents here, so.
But we don't need the document for tonight, as long as he
No, I know.
Right, right.
before hearing.
I have the shoreline impact permit, right here in front of me, October 19th, 2020.
And is there a plan of the 25th of September with it?
Of September. Hang on. I don't see anything for September. It's just,
Because the building inspector made reference in one of his emails that he hadn't seen the plan. I just want to make sure that we're all talking about the same plans.
but this was dated afterwards on October 19th, Roger. So,
Yeah, that would have, he would have submitted the plan and then the state gave the permit.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know where the plan is, but this is the permit. The permit number on there, 2020-01752. Is this, what is that? Yeah. But anyway, I think that answers your question anyway, but it was available. So Jim, Administrative Secretary, did we add to the motion, the part about
Okay.
having a walkthrough?
Yes, it is
With the,
now,
as long as it's okay with Mr. and Mrs. Doherty.
Yeah, that is okay with us, and we will provide exactly what the state saw.
Okay. Thank you.
okay. So the motion is to find the application complete to take to public hearing on,
No. It's to rehear the meeting, to
Oh.
rehear the,
sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, so Frank Gibbs moved to rehear the application on June 14th, 2021 with documentation added by the Dohertys regarding the shoreline approval from the state and the plan from September 25th, 2020, and to hold a site walk without discussion or decisions. We need a date for that in order to make the motion complete.
and one other thing, Jim, it's the 15th of June. The 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got that correction. Sorry, Mr. Hamill. Just in
I'm
order to make
open for the site.
the motion complete, you do need a date for the sidewalk.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure, Jim, how we can do that without consulting all the members and.
Well,
Let me get a calendar, okay?
Mr. Secretary, can we do that with a date to be determined?
Can everybody do it during the week?
You
6:30 or
can
something?
you can do it with a date to be determined. However, by the end of the meeting, you should have a discussion and set a date
Okay,
because I'm somewhat limited in how much time I have available.
all right. Okay.
Yeah. I now have a commute guy, so I've got to, I gotta factor that in, so I am not available during the week, during the day.
I preferred, after 5 or 6 o'clock. It's light till 7:30, and I don't think we'll be there that long.
Okay,
Okay. Well,
Unless
that motion is, that motion needs to be voted on, gentlemen. Do I hear a, oh, I second it. Are there any more discussion or additions to the motion? Hearing none, if the administrative secretary could do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye,
That is unanimous.
motion carries. Okay.
We just need a date for it.
That's what we need. We'll discuss that a little later on.
Okay.
Well, do we
I'll
need
make
the
a motion. And then,
authorities' input on the date that they're available?
We're
I'm
pretty much
sorry.
available whenever you need us to be.
Okay. Let's move the application and end that session with the Dohertys.
Will we be notified beforehand?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, what?
Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Doherty, one of us someone will be in contact with you to let you know what that walkthrough date will be if you're still on.
Thank you.
No
very
problem.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. This is a preliminary hearing. Gregory and Maddie Colson of Newton, New Hampshire seek relief from section XV:3, location of lot, specifically side yard setbacks of 133 North Main Street, Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referenced as tax map 9, block 6, lot 5. The information was supplied in your recent packet. So everybody should have a packet on that one. Let me grab mine. So I can review it with everyone else. This is a preliminary hearing to make sure that all the i's are dotted and so forth, and make sure everything we need is here. So if everybody wants to take a minute just to look through everything. And the denial, I believe this is what it is. This wait, looks like condition of the building permit approval, 10/01/20. Is that correct, Mr. Olson? Colson, I'm sorry, that this was, when did you apply for this permit? October of 2020? Are they muted out there?
The date on the plan is 4/7/21.
Well, I'm just reading on the building permit on the bottom, it says building permit approval, 10/01/20. Not that it makes any difference, so evidently they've been waiting. I don't see a date on any, anyway, let me read it to you anyway. This permit is denied due to the non-complying with section XV:3, wow, the Newton zoning ordinance. No building or structure should be within 65 feet of the center of the street. Okay, let's take a look at the plot plan. Okay, let me take a look at this. Does everybody have the plot plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alan, we're in the middle of the meeting, Alan. I'll talk to you later. Alan keeps on calling me my cell phone. I'm sorry about that, because he can't get on. We all want to take a look at the plot plan, see if there's anything on there that we, so evidently the property garage that I'm looking at must be the new garage. It says, 24 feet from the center of the road, is that correct?
41 feet from the center.
Oh, 40, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 41 to the center, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yep.
all right.
So the,
Does anybody have any questions on, we have everything, I think it looks fine.
the plan does not show the amount of the variance that they're looking.
I'm sorry, Roger, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that, please?
The plan does not show what the size of the variance that they're looking for. It shows to the center of the road, but it doesn't show the amount of the variance.
Did you hear them, Mr. Colson? Are you on? They're still muted.
I've asked them several times to unmute.
Yeah.
So
Can you-
Roger, if I'm looking at this correct, that means it's 24 feet that they're looking for. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
But usually you've been requiring that to
Yes,
show
yeah,
on
we
the.
require the footage, right?
I just want to
Are the
make sure. I'm looking
Are
at
the
this correct,
closest,
that's
could
all.
they please unmute? I'm not sure how we do that.
Okay, there we are.
Six, maybe.
Mr. and
We're
Mrs.
back
Carlson,
here.
are you there?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, on your plan, Roger, why don't you take over because you're the one to pull it up and explain it to them, please.
Usually what we require is for you to ask for the size of the variance. So your plan shows that the front of the garage is 41 feet from the center line of the road.
That's
So-
the side of the garage.
That's,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's the side of the garage. I'm turning, the new garage, I'm keeping parallel with the road.
Okay, but anyway, what my point is that we require that the plan show the size of the variance. In this case, it's probably 24 feet,
Right.
but that needs to be on the plan.
Okay, so, I mean, the garage, you have the measurements 20 by 24. So what you're saying is we have to go, I don't understand.
Well, ma'am, this is a chair. Your building is 41 feet from the center of the road. The
Right.
ordinance calls for 65 feet.
Right,
So you're looking for a 24-foot variance.
Yes.
That must be on the plan, because otherwise, we're not going to calculate the variance.
okay,
You need to get that on the plan, that the variance request is 24 feet from the center of the road.
so we actually have to go back to the surveyor and have him do that?
Oh, sure you can, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and and just reference that, reference, well, you don't have to, I suppose, that the setback, what is it? Section XV.3, and that's what you're doing. But it should definitely show the variance request of 24 feet,
okay,
okay?
all right.
Is there anything else, gentlemen, and to let these people go for the evening, and we'll see them next month?
I mean,
Any other
At-
questions?
at next month's meeting, I would expect them to give justification for why they can't move that garage further back.
I can tell you right now,
There's the
if
wetland.
you look at the plot land, you'll see that on the side there's a gravel driveway. And matter of fact, the property kind of goes at a downward slope. That's why we can't move it back far enough, because we got the swamp behind the slope. If we could put the garage in the swamp, we're all set.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, if there are wetlands on the property and that's why you can't do it there, it would be good if we could see where those wetlands are.
Actually,
It-
if
it's
you look,
really-
if you look on the plan, the paper surveyor map, it says toe to the slope, possible wetlands. It shows it right on it.
Okay,
It shows 41 feet to the wetlands, and I think it's supposed to be 50 feet.
Yeah, I think
So they have
it's,
they have the garage centered so that staying away from the wetlands and trying to stay away from the center of the road.
right.
So you're saying, Mr. Gibbs, that from the wetlands is 50 feet and they're only, so they need a variance here also?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you are.
I
'cause they're
think,
going
I think it's 50 feet. I'm not sure.
Does anybody know offhand is it 50 feet? Yeah, I think that seems right, but I'm not sure. Roger,
Yes.
Mr. Hamel, do you have any idea what it is?
again, off the top of my head, I'm not positive, but I believe that is true, that it's 50
Yeah.
feet.
Well, Mrs. Colson, this is
Yes.
the chair again. You might look into that, where that 41 feet is hitting the wetlands.
Yeah.
So you're short 9 feet there. So if next month when we go through and it's when the abutters are on and so forth, it could possibly get denied if we find out that it is 50 feet. That's something you're gonna have to look into. And that could be
Okay.
another variance that you're requiring. And that should also be.
And the measurement should come from the overhang of the building, not the foundation of the building.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
And
thank you, Mr. Gibbs. That's very important. So you know what he's saying, ma'am? If that garage is there, and I take it the traffic's gonna come in from that, where that 40-foot line is, that there's an overhang there of a foot. So that makes it even, you've got to be measuring from that overhang.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
You
Mr.
follow
Chairman.
me? Instead of being 24 feet, it could be 25 feet if you had a foot overhang.
I don't think there is
'Cause
any.
the garage right now shows no overhang.
Right, I don't think
On
there
the
is
roof-
any.
When you
It's a
put the
gable.
roof on, it overhangs over the building.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be a Gabriel.
it's gonna be
Right,
a
but
what,
it's still
ma'am?
gonna overhang.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
what will happen, ma'am, if you come up and don't give us those variances correctly, you'll never get a building permit.
okay,
Because he's gonna look at that. Let's just say for talking purposes, that it's 10 inches, the overhang from the front. I'm sure they'll be on the side, but the front is what we're looking at. I assume that's the front. And he looks at it and he said, oh, no, this isn't correct. He'll deny a permit. So you make sure that the overhang is included in that. So it might be, 40 feet. You might be looking from, instead of 24 feet, you might be looking for
okay,
whatever
wait a
the
minute,
distance
wait.
between that and 25 feet, you know?
Can I ask you a question? Now, the front of the garage isn't the 24 foot. The front of the garage is the 20 foot. So you're talking about the hangover facing our house?
No, on the
No, the
garage,
hang-
ma'am.
On
Okay.
the garage, the closest point, meaning the hanging point is usually what they're saying is the hanging point is the closest point, whether it be the center of the road,
Okay,
or in this case, they're talking about possibly wetland. You've got to take it from that. It's attached to the dwelling, so it's considered part of the dwelling. That is the closest point to
Okay.
the center of the road or to the wetland or to a side property. That's the measuring point from that dwelling.
okay.
And my question to you is, in this map that I'm looking at, we've talked about wetlands.
Yeah.
The number 41 came up, 41 feet comes straight out to these dotted lines. Where is the wetland? Is it down, back where it says toe of slope, possible wetland? Or is
Yes.
it up by the 41-foot mark?
It's on the other side of the dotted line.
So you're gonna wanna make sure that they measure from the closest point, that overhang. You may not need a variance to the wetland, but you are gonna wanna make sure that is measured
Okay,
to validate, because that'll be one of the questions we have, which is, all of a sudden now, you showed 41 feet, kind of looks like it's going to wetlands. We're gonna want to know that exact measurement. And again, as Mr. Chairman said, when you go to the building permit, for the building permit, if that's inaccurate, or even later down the line, if they show that that's inaccurate, they can have you tear things down. So you're gonna want to make sure your measurements are accurate.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman,
Bill,
Yes,
building guy came up and looked at it.
yeah, who's talking?
your administrative assistant?
Okay, yes, yes, sir.
Just so you know that under the Wetland Zoning Ordinance, Section 8B, no building activity requiring a building permit shall be permitted within 50 feet of any poorly or very poorly drained soil, except as provided by subsection C of this section.
Hmm.
And
Well, evidently,
subsection,
evidently the building inspector didn't even see that, did he?
Well, that's questionable, right? Because she's saying 41 feet, which we're looking to the dotted line. No, she can't validate where that wetland starts. And
Yeah.
that needs to be validated because that's going to be a question I'm going to ask.
Yes, definitely.
Well, that is the wetlands. That is the beginning of the wetlands, is the dotted line.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
That's what it says.
yes.
Okay. Then that's going to be, so that'll be an issue that needs to be addressed.
yeah,
Right.
that definitely, especially if there might, especially Mr. Conley, if there's an overhang, everything changes. It's like
Right.
whatever. Ma'am, are we confusing you? Do you understand what we're looking for?
I'm a little bit confused. Right now, we actually have a garage that's gonna be torn. We were gonna tear it down. That's actually back farther than the new garage is we want to put up.
Then that should be that should be shown on your map.
It
And
is.
that should be part of-
It is.
So I know, but so it's also part of the case that you're actually alleviating space between a dwelling and the wetlands.
I don't. I'm confused.
So ma'am, when you come back with this next month,
Yeah.
if these aren't correct, even the abutters that are online, it'll be postponed till the following month if these plans are not correct, just so you're aware of it.
All right. I know the building inspector has been out and he has measured and he has looked at the property,
Yeah,
so.
well, the one in the front, again, that 24 feet, that could go to 25 if there's an overhang, or 24 and a half feet. You know, you've got to include the overhang on both requests. So there's two variances you're going to be looking for. One for the wetlands and
Yeah.
one for the center of the road.
And like my wife said, the garage is up now is much closer to the wetland than what we'd like to put up.
We can't help that, sir, is what you're doing now. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually the house.
The code asks for 50 feet from the wetlands, and that's only, what, 41 feet, what was it? Yeah, 41 feet.
Wetlands.
But that does not include, I'm sure, the overhang. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
All right.
it's a good idea for on that proposed garage, that there could be a dotted line or something to specify the overhang, because that's the question that the building inspector will have also.
Okay.
Yeah. No, excuse me, Mrs. Olson, is that it? I'm sorry if I pronounced
I
your
have
name
to
wrong,
have-
I'm sorry.
No way.
Mrs. Olson, if you have a question, our administrative secretary will answer any of your questions. You could call him at the town hall, leave him a message, and I'm sure he'd get back to you to make sure you understand, so you don't get, so when we have a hearing next month, excuse me, it'll be a final hearing.
Okay, do I have to get new maps for you guys?
Oh, yeah, they've got to
Okay.
show it on all these.
Okay, so we're looking at eight again?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Is that, did she say she's leaving the Colsons?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions that they should leave with?
No,
Roger, are you happy with Mr. Hamlin, excuse me, and Mr. Conley? We
I
covered all the bases?
address the questions that we need to get answered by next month.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let me get my papers up here. Where am I? Can I grab something from mine here? Okay, now let's move on to acceptance of the minutes of 4/12/20.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Did you
Yes,
want
sir.
a motion to continue this to a
Oh,
public
yeah,
hearing?
I'm sorry. Yes, there should be a motion to continue the hearing for Gregory and Maddie Colson to June. What's the date in June? June 12th, 13th or something?
15th.
15th. Would someone make that
I'd like to
motion,
make a
please?
motion to continue this till June 13th,
15th.
15th?
Yes, 1/5.
Okay, to June
Oh,
15th.
it's the 14th. I got a
That's
calendar
the
right here.
14th.
It's the 14th
Monday.
of June.
Thank
Okay,
you.
14th.
That's what I'd been saying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Was there a second on the motion?
I second the motion, Mike Conley.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, is
Yes.
that to take it to a public hearing or just to continue?
No, I'm sorry, it's going to be moved to a public hearing.
Okay.
So meeting the abutter notices have to go mailed out. Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to call the roll?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, that's unanimous.
Okay. So that is, we finished our board business. We now let's get on to the acceptance of minutes of 4/12, April 12th. Now, I need to get my copy of the minutes.
I would like to preface this, if I may, by stating these are not my minutes. If people have extensive corrections, please send them in an email to me.
Yeah, the only corrections that I have at the end there when this is the last page, and Mr. Hamel, I would like to make a motion that we go into non-public under RSA. After that, it ends. Okay. So we're not, at least I'm not. We just don't go into non-public very often. I think that's the second one in many years that I've been on the board. So that we never, I don't think, at least we sealed them, but I'm not sure if we went back to a public meeting or not, and then we adjourned. None of that is on the bottom of the
Chairman,
minutes. Can anybody help me out there?
this is Mr. Hamel. I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes of April 12th with the following corrections. At the end of the minutes, add that there was a unanimous vote to go into non-public.
Yeah.
Then next paragraph be, after returning to the public session, there was a vote to seal the minutes of the non-public meeting. And then next item is we adjourned. I don't have details on who voted. So and if the notes aren't available to the administrative assistant, I think all we need to do is just state that those things did happen in public session.
Yes, yep, okay.
Mr. Hamel,
Do
can
I
you
have a
send that?
second on that? Hello? Mike, is there a second?
I heard two people talking. Can I get clarification what was said?
I'm sorry. Did everybody hear Roger's motion?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
This is, Jim, would you like to walk through this, the administrative assistant's input, and explain to the board what we're doing with our name and so forth that we both agreed on, you and I?
Sure.
Or we want to present it to the board?
Okay.
Are we in non-public yet?
No.
No, we're not. We're not. That's coming up a little while. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The first item is the board's name. In doing some research, in trying to take over from Laura, I just had to do some reading to find out what the ZBA actually can do. As many of you know, I have many years of experience on the planning board. There is no such thing in the state of New Hampshire as simply a Board of Appeals. There is a Building Code Board of Appeals, which oversees if the town adopts a building code other than the state and they mitigate any differences between the two. Or there is a Zoning Board of Adjustment, which is what this board has been functioning as for quite some time. Your appointments all say that you have been appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Therefore, I'm asking if the board would consider making it official that henceforth this board will be known as the Newton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Just so that we correct everything and all the paperwork, like from the state and what have you, all says, you know, it comes to the ZBA, they then get stuff back from the Board of Appeals, and they go, there's no such thing as a Board of Appeals.
Yeah. It makes sense to align it.
Yes, yeah.
So would somebody like to move that henceforth the board will be known as the Zoning Board of Adjustment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye.
Okay, item 2. I've discovered that for years, the ZBA has been running a deficit because they take in money, it goes into the general account, and then any billing comes out of your operating budget. That is contrary to state law. State law says that if you take in money for a fee, to cover a fee, that must be held in a separate escrow account and paid out via a manifest. The planning board presently does this with something called the NEPR account, which Mr. Hamel knows about. Money is taken in, and that money pays for the abutter notices, the legal ad, any registry fees, any additional postage that can be ascribed to a specific applicant. And then when it's done, a reconciling statement is sent to the applicant with any refund of monies that were not spent. It takes a motion of this board to direct me as the administrative assistant to work with the town treasurer to establish an ESCO account as required by RSA 673:16. I sent you that all in a highlighted document, and I found out that I didn't actually include one in your board packet. So if the board wishes to discuss it or has any questions, that would be the next motion that would be make things easier. And it also means that the town would also stop losing money on the ZBA.
Well, potential money, right? Because it's not being balanced. However, money's coming in. We don't know if we've lost, correct?
Well, we'll get into some of that in the coming down. Later, I'm going to ask you to adopt a new fee schedule because your fees are completely inconsistent with the actual costs.
That's fair. That's fair.
But right now, in what the money that I get in a check, and I've seen a couple of them so far since taking over.
Yeah.
That goes into the general fund and does not offset the cost of the ZBA. So the ZBA looks like it's a money pit.
No, that's fine. I'm not arguing it. Trust
Yeah.
me. My only comment
I
is
think this is
a
the
good
chair.
way of
I think Jim and I talked about this. We've had a lot of talks in the last couple of weeks, and you guys are going to find out a little bit more about that in the end of this in the non-public. But pointed out some very valid points that this money should stay within the Board of Adjustments and offset. So what's happening is that, as you can see, that that's why we run such a deficit in all these little things. You know.
I did include in your board packet that if you do institute this, I've already set up a spreadsheet accounting. On the large sheet that you got in your board packet, on one side is my version for the planning board. And on the other side is a kind of blank version of what would be the ZBA's version. So that at any time, if somebody wants to know how much does Mike Conley still have in his ZBA escrow account, you open that and it's right there. You just look across the line and there's the total that's presently on here.
No, I agree with this. This is accountability, and it'll force our hands or the town's hands to make sure as fees go up, that we stay up with the times and not lose money. So I'm all for that.
Any further discussion, or do we have somebody to move that question?
So I've got a question about the mechanics of this. If we're going to set up an escrow account, have either the chair or the administrative assistant spoken to the selectman or the treasurer on how to?
I have spoken to the acting treasurer, who I think you know, Roger, Mr. Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
She understands the concept. It's simply setting up basically a municipal checking account that the money can be deposited into and from which the monies can be drawn. That is, the state law requires that it exist. I did call some surrounding towns to find out how they do it. Plastow has a ZBA budget that is large enough that, and because of they have a town manager, they have a slightly different requirement from DRA for bookkeeping. So they are allowed to take in money and use it as a direct offset through their accounting system as a town manager managed town versus a selectman managed town. They still have a board of selectmen, but that because they have a town manager, it's sort of halfway between a town and a city.
Yeah.
Kingston does an escrow account. And they charge every penny they can. I have to be careful because this is a recording that will go out on the air. But many towns charge whatever they can to the applicant. Just like our planning board at the moment, because of the weight of the board packets that are going out, if it gets divided between the applicants to send out the board packets rather than drain down the planning board's postage account.
Yeah.
May not sound like much, but if you look at the board package you got the other day, I believe they were $2.40 each. And I only sent out, I believe, 4 of them. I hand delivered 4, only mailed out 3. If you had the escrow account, I wouldn't have to run around and make sure the people that I dropped them off, they would be able to go to the post office and go straight through. I've noticed some practices that I don't know if the ZBA has just not done or not thought to do, but none of your notices of decision are recorded, and they really should be, in an effort to protect the applicants once you find in their favor or you grant a variance. There is no money that is taken in that would cover the recording fee. Later on, I'm going to be requesting that you look at new fees, because right at the moment, the applicants are not paying their fair share of the cost.
But Jim, whatever you establish, I don't think there'll be a problem getting it past the board, especially the conversations you and I have had in the last couple of weeks.
Well, this is the board that has to establish it.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
As long as it's something that's measurable, can be benchmarked and validated for realistic pricing,
Yeah.
so that we don't get down the line and get into any issues, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Okay. Are we all set with number 2? The escrow
No,
account?
there needs to be a motion to authorize its creation.
Yeah.
So it would be a motion that the administrative assistant work with the town treasurer to establish an escrow account as required by RSA section 673:16.
I make a motion on everything you just said right there.
So he's
No
moving-
problem.
he's
Thanks.
moving
Thank you,
question. Is there a second?
Aye, Mike Conley,
Okay.
second it.
No more discussion. Would the administrative assistant please call the roll?
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
All right,
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And now we move to the new application forms. Jim will talk about that. I believe you sent out copies to all the members, correct, Jim?
I
Yep.
believe everybody should have them.
Yep.
Some of them were two-sided.
Yep.
One of the sheets that you had has one application on the front and one application on the back. I will print them out so that they are individual.
Yeah.
And they will all come with the same. What I propose doing is I will take those applications as you saw them. I'm going to slightly reformat them so that they will be put on the website. They will be downloadable. And the first page of each application is going to be the instruction sheet. So somebody doesn't have to pull the instructions from one, download and the application from another. The instructions will be basically page 1. And then they can print out page 2, page 3, fill them out, but they've got the instructions in hand. So nobody can say, oh, I never saw the instructions. I did separate ones for the different items that the ZBA has under its purview. I may have missed something. Those are modifications of the ones that the state has on their information booklet.
You know, gentlemen, when I was looking for a, when the Dohertys were looking for an appeal, I went online and I was looking at different towns. I think I found one. Remember, Jim, I went up,
Yes.
excuse me, Mr. Doggett. I went to the town hall with Jim and we discussed it. And Milton really had a pretty unique form to do an appeal, completely different than just an application, which I think, if I'm not correct, Jim, you've come up with something for an appeal, correct?
There is a request for rehearing. There is a request for variance, request for special exception.
Right.
I apologize. I don't have them all in front of me.
Okay, but anyway,
there are-
there's
there are
different
5.
areas that we always use the same standard form and it just didn't comply. And after looking at the stuff that Milton did, and which is not that big of a town, I thought it was an excellent job for an appeal. Everything was there. In fact, in the bottom of it, I remember the last page, it asked for a walkthrough, you know, permission from the owner for a site walk, you know, already on the form. When they,
I
when
can
they
add
did
that
it.
to every one of the forms. If you
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. It's time. We got to get this upgraded. So,
Yes, yep, okay. Would somebody like to move the question?
So moved.
Okay, would the administrative
Second.
assistant please do a roll call? Thank you.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
So this is a motion to
adopt the new forms.
adopt all 5 forms.
Yes, to adopt all 5.
Yeah, aye.
Mr. Conley,
aye.
Mr. Kozak,
Aye. Motion carries.
thank you. The next
So,
item, and actually my last item for tonight at least, is on the instruction page at the bottom. You see a copy of our existing fee structure, or your existing fee structure. I apologize, but those numbers are inadequate because your basic ad for a single public hearing is $127. You're presently charging people $100. You're charging people $7 per abutter, which is technically you're charging $7.50 per abutter. That is technically 50 cents more than the state law says you're supposed to charge for an abutter. But it doesn't cover the amount that you take in, doesn't cover any additional postage that may be required. It certainly doesn't cover things like recording your notices of decision. Every now and then you may need to do a certified letter. So not having been here that long, what I did was I took the basic number from a planning board cost, which includes your average of 10 abutters, the price of your ad, the price of the recording of a notice of decision, and that is their least expensive NEPR deposit. And I'm asking you tonight to consider adopting those new fees so that the ZBA is properly funded by the people who are using the ZBA.
Mr. Administrator, can I ask a clarifying question, please?
Certainly.
So when I look at that, I say, okay, so somebody's probably thinking in the past was to peanut butter spread all the costs and average it out, but are we gonna get an upfront and then reconcile on the back end so that there's an actual a la carte actual that will true up with the person at the end? So that the ZBA is not losing money, or is these just the
One of the
price?
convenient things about having an escrow account is at the end or during the period, somebody comes in, such as a certain developer at the southern end of town,
Yeah,
with 95 abutters. I know that that amount is not adequate. And if you authorize me to, you can authorize your administrative assistant to calculate out and charge more than what your fee structure says, if it's justifiable. So we recently, at that location at the southern end of town, had a had a tenant that came into one of those buildings. They chose to have every abutter on the abutters list receive a certified notification, even though those in a condo development only needed to have a single one sent to the condo association.
right.
Their abutter notices cost $665. That is extraordinary to the average ones that the ZBA will see. I had to a certain extent, I had to sort of, roll the dice and go, okay, this is a starting point. If I suddenly notice that I'm billing people at the end of their public hearing, and remember, the public hearing, the notice of decision is not signed until the escrow account has been satisfied.
All right, so there is a check and balance and a true up.
Right.
Okay,
However, it's better to tell them, it's $250 and give them back 40 than
Correct.
it is to look at them and go, it's $250 and now you owe us 40 and you're not getting your notice of decision
Until you pay the 40, yeah.
until you've paid.
No, I totally get it, but you answered my question. I was looking for that true up, and I'm glad it's there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Jim, I think you've done a nice job, Jim, on all these forms and so forth.
It looks real good.
Yeah, very good.
Would anybody like to
Well,
make a motion?
Any more questions on number 4, the new fees? Someone would like to move the question.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion, gentlemen?
A couple of nitpicky things. On your instructions, Jim,
Yes.
you need to change the name of the board to everything else. But on there, it's just called the Board of Appeals.
I apologize. I'm trying to do all of this in very limited time.
Well, all right, I'll wait to the vote, and then I have a question for Mr. Administrator. I'll wait for our votes.
No problem. You can ask now if you'd like.
No.
Go ahead.
I want to get us off topic. Go.
Okay. Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel,
All right,
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
So, Mr. Administrator, as we clean this up and move forward,
Yes.
and I know right now you're in a temporary role, is that accurate?
Yes.
So as we move forward, Are we looking at additional administrative time for somebody that sits in your position? And do we need to upgrade the skill set of the person that sits in your position currently as acting?
To be honest, I have been doing this for, I believe, 3 weeks. I've been averaging 6.5 hours a week. There is a lot of little tedious things that as I come and can look at the board and say, okay, I bet after 6 weeks, I've noticed that this is a continuing, ongoing XYZ, and I can present it to the board with facts and figures. Then I can answer your question. But right at the moment, I'm still trying to find some things, get some information. So I'd like to reserve answering that question until I have more data to give you.
That's fine. I'll leave that open. We can circle back to that. My next thing to you would be, you've got a lot of experience at the town level. I'm going to just focus on that.
Okay.
If you did not have that experience at the town level in the inner workings, how hard would this have been for you to step in and do what you're doing today?
I think you could have somebody walk in with absolutely no knowledge of the particulars of the ZBA, and you would probably be sitting in court both collectively and individually. There's very little information that the town possesses to sort of stir up somebody in this position. There's training coming up this Saturday morning that the chair has graciously informed me that I can take on the functions of the ZBA. It's a 3-hour session on Saturday morning. If it were up to me, I would try to drag everybody that I could from the ZBA there, because the more individual members know the process behind the meeting, the more likely people are to be able to, something happens to me tomorrow, it'd be nice to be able to say, okay, well, actually, Roger probably would have an idea of what to do to keep things going.
Right.
I think that Mr. Kozak would. I suspect you would, but I don't know you very well. And Frank would probably be actually capable of saying, I don't think that's how it's done. Everybody has their own level of expertise. And
Correct.
Frank, you know why I'm not really picking on you, but I've known you long enough. Frank knows when things aren't right, but Frank may not be able to make them right again. Roger probably knows how to make it right. So together you would probably all manage to function, but somebody walking in would probably throw their hands up and go, I'm doing this for how much?
Right, but you just answered my question. We could
okay.
function in a dysfunctional way, right?
Exactly.
Okay. I appreciate
I
your
think the
feedback.
thing that also is I think we're very fortunate to get Jim right now. I'm about to tell you about a few other things that happened. Jim and I were meeting together last Sunday night, or 2 Sunday nights ago at the town hall in after hours and whatever. But and what he's done in a short period of time and stuff we've looked at and so forth is, I find, just incredible. And it brings us into at least to the 20th century is what we're doing.
Oh.
But I think to answer your
Mr. Chairman,
question,
I do have to admit, a bit of this I did on my own time because I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Newton and wanted to see it get done.
Yeah.
This definitely
that's fair.
exceeded six hours a week.
No, but that goes back to my original, that's why I wanted to know, right? Right, I mean, we have to set something in a process in motion that's feasible, doable, and can fund itself.
Correct.
We can't continue the Band-Aids. The Band-Aids, the blood's leaking through right now, and we have to fix it.
One of the things I will tell you is whoever is sitting in this chair, you cannot recoup that expense from your applicants.
No, I get that. That's a town expense.
Right.
100%.
However,
Right. No, I know that. But that person needs to understand the role and make sure that the applicant is funding their own goals.
yes. The budget in November, which I may or may not be here to help you with, I'm going to have before August a proposed budget for next year, because I will have an idea of how many applications you're doing, what the time sink is for each application, including a couple. Mr. Chairman has an email that I sent him from I was thoroughly shocked that the ZBA received communication today from somebody who is not an applicant. They thought they had to apply. I worked with them for a little bit. They ended up discovering they didn't have to apply, and they are thrilled.
That was probably the nicest letter I've seen anybody write about any town employee, Jim.
I was shocked.
Yeah, I've known Susan for a good many years, and I mean, I haven't communicated with her since we used to argue when she was on the school board, but that was quite a letter.
I used to argue with her on the school board. I was surprised.
So my only thing, Mr. Administrator, is as you put the budget together,
Yes.
people, whoever, if it's not you, but think about this down the road. Tomorrow you got hit by a bus. The
Yes.
person stepping in that doesn't have the town knowledge, doesn't have a lot of the behind the scenes understandings.
Mm-hmm.
We need to build that in the budget because there's going to be a ramp up time, and that's not short.
Yeah.
Well,
And
exactly.
that's what's needed, and that's
if-
what's needed so that we don't put ourselves back in this position.
Yeah. You know, Mike, who's Mr. Conley, is my idea going forward out there for the next several weeks is that no matter what happens here with our secretary, if Laura decides to come back, whatever, which is a whole nother venue we're going to look at, part of it tonight. And, that I'm going to approach Nancy, and, you know, like Jim said, nobody knows what the secretary of the ZBA's responsibilities are. And maybe, I mean, I'm sure, Mike, you've had operation manuals and so forth. It might be a rough draft or whatever, but it's a starting point. And maybe we can get Mr. Doggett to do something like that, and let the town pick up the tab for the work, because it's something that this board may not need it, but we're going to need it in the future. You know, that if something should happen and we need a secretary, you basically can go over, hey, these are the requirements. This is what you have to get involved with. You know,
Mr. Chair.
I agree.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
You need to be really careful. We're starting to get into potentially stuff that should be in non-public.
Okay, yes, okay. Hey, listen, why don't we move on then? But I do have one thing before we go into non-public. As you can see tonight, there's people that couldn't get on. I'd like to go to the town hall in a hybrid situation, meaning that we'll be there, but people will still call in. Jim, you know how to do this, right? Because you do it on the planning board?
Actually, no, the planning board is still staying with the Zoom.
Okay.
And
So there's Zoom.
I did spoke to Ms. Moran today.
Yep.
And I would ask that you wait at least until June to make the motion I believe you're going to make.
Yeah, to
because
start the meetings in June?
No, because right at the moment, I can't guarantee to the board that the personnel will be available to do a
Okay.
hybrid meeting.
All right,
And at that point, if you're not doing it as a virtual meeting and you don't have the personnel to do a hybrid meeting, then it can only be an in-person meeting.
okay,
And that may cause issues at least through August.
all right,
But
okay, okay,
on that issue, I think that considering all of the difficulties we have had with this board has had with Zoom meetings, if we cannot do a hybrid, we should just meet in person. That is obviously an option that we have. And I think that actually meeting in person would be a better choice than meeting in Zoom. Ideally, we do the hybrid and give people the option to go either way. But some of these meetings really kind of fall apart.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very difficult. You could see that, I'm not sure if Trish McCarthy get on. Alan must have tried calling me 10 times over. You heard the call in the background. I could never, Tom's off, but he was having a lot of difficulty. So, I mean, is the town hall open, Jim?
Not officially, well,
Well, the town, the selectmen back, 6-8 months ago, authorized any board that wanted to meet in town hall, they can meet in town hall.
correct.
Okay.
So
What's
we
the
have,
general feeling of the board members? Would you like to meet in the town hall?
So here's my only suggestion, or not my suggestion. Here's my only thought, right? I think we, meaning the board, eventually have to get back there, whether it's June, July, August. I get it.
Yeah.
But for butters, for other people, I think we should realize that technology is taking over, and eventually we're going to have to go to a hybrid model. So let's not just put the hammer down on one or the other.
Okay,
But I think we need to find a technology. It doesn't have to be tonight or
Yep.
tomorrow, but we need to figure this out so that it's everybody and more participants can participate that can't show up because they got
Okay.
kids or whatever.
yeah, then let's pass on that for the time being then, okay. Let's continue and move to go into non-public under RSA
Mr. Chair,
91-A-3.
Mr.
Someone want to
Chair,
make a move?
before we go there, I have another
I'm
comment.
sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Hamel, go ahead.
Okay, I want to thank him very much for all of those forms that he made, but I have one more request.
Uh-oh.
According to the RSA's, the zoning, all the land use boards need to have rules of procedure. We don't. I have asked, because according to the RSA's, the town clerk has to have a copy of it. She has no copy of any rules of procedure from the zoning board.
Yep,
I would request that Jim take the rules of procedure format out of the Board of Adjustment of New Hampshire's handbook from the OSI, because I don't think it's available as
No, it's not available as a editable document.
yeah. So if you could find some way to turn that into an editable document, then we work on creating the rules of procedure that we need to have.
Mr. Hamel, can I counter that?
Huh?
I will make every effort to have for the June meeting rules and procedures for the ZBA. Even if I have to cobble them together, and people such as yourself may have to do some editing for me. Because I will admit this to the entire board. I type a mean set of minutes, but it really needs somebody else. I find it very difficult to proof my own. So Mr. Hamel has proofed my minutes before for me when he was chair of the planning board. I will cobble together a document like I did with all of these applications. I need board members to agree that they're going to look at it and give serious thought to, okay, do I want to word it this way or do I want to word it differently? And I will have that for you for the June meeting. Actually, well before the June meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Are we all set now, gentlemen? I'm gonna go make a, someone want to make the move that we go into non-public under 91-A semicolon 3.
Roman numeral 2C.
Okay.
Mr.
So
Kozak,
moved.
Somebody want to second that, please?
I second, Mike.
Okay. For the administrative assistant, call the
Mr.
roll.
Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. Friend, sorry, Mr. Hamel,
Aye.
Mr. Conley,
Aye.
Mr. Kozak.
Aye.
Um,
Well, gentlemen, we're going to discuss.
Before you start anything,
Hold on.
Yes,
Mr. Conley, you're on the 0961 telephone number?
I am.
Okay.
Do you want me to go offline on the
No.
digital?
No. I have you twice. I have you there and I have Mike Conley. I don't know. I'm assuming that's also you.
Yeah, Mike Conley would be the video, but for some reason I had trouble connecting audio and I had to dial in.
Oh, okay. Would you prefer to stay on your phone or do the other one? It does. It doesn't.
The audio's not working on the other one, so I have to stay on the phone.
Oh, okay.
So you can disconnect me if you need to.
okay, Jim, I'm assuming Mr. Doggo, you're just checking that there's nobody else on that shouldn't be on.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yep.
So are we clear now, Jim, Mr. Doggo?
Yes, you are in non-public. Wait a second. I
Okay.
need to
Well,
start on a
the-
fresh piece of paper and
You remember, this information is very confidential, gentlemen. The selectmen do not know about what I'm about to tell you. I have a non-public with the selectmen on the 18th of the month. That's the earliest I could get on their agenda.
Well, Mr. Doggett,
I mean,
Mr. Doggett, have you changed the recording?
thank you.
oh yeah. Gee, I was supposed to
Hold on
say
one
something.
sec. Hold on one second.
Okay,
It's